Hi guys, this is Mildred Olivares coming to you to explain the effectiveness of Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe in hopes that you guys like and just love this poem as much as I do and vote for it. So I'm gonna start off by giving a brief reading of the poem and let me start. It was many and a many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by my side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. All right, and that's the end of the poem. So what I'm about to get into, for me, in my opinion, would be the most effective parts of this poem. So I'm going to start off. My first thing, and it's very noticeable, is the use of repetition. So from the very beginning, we have an emphasis on Annabel Lee, obviously, which is, again, it was titled um, about her. So I guess I'm gonna, I summarize it, and it's basically about Edgar Allan Poe. He wrote about, in this poem, it's a narrator speaking of his late lover, which is Annabel Lee in this case. And the use of repetition, not only by emphasizing her name, I feel like it's because he wants the narrator to keep remembering her. Like if he keeps saying her name, it's like she's still there. Another thing that it's like emphasized on is the kingdom by the sea. Another use of repetition because that was the last place that the narrator is like remembering being with Annabel Lee. So by repeating, and like it seems like it's Kingdom by the Sea where all of these events took place where Annabel Lee died, etc. So you see here, like he talks about being a child in this kingdom by the sea. Um, and then we have here that the kingsmen like bore her away and put her in this like sepulcher in the kingdom by the sea. Uh, we have again like it just keeps getting repeated because all of these events happen there, and like the author wants the reader to remember that, to emphasize it so it can stay be a memorable thing or something that sticks out in the poem. Another thing that the narrator also really repeats a lot would be the beauty and of Annabel Lee, which is just used most effectively in my part, just to give like an insight to the infatuation that this narrator had towards Annabel Lee. Um, Another thing that I think helped this poem a lot was the rhyme and rhythm. I feel like it's a really easy poem. It's a really nice beat that it has. It's almost song-like. So whenever it's being read to someone or whenever someone's reading it to themselves, it gives it the rhythm that it has. It's like very melodic, I believe is the word, and it just makes it more pleasing to the audience or the reader. Another thing I feel like helped this a lot would be the theme of the poem, which would be not even death can like separate love, basically. So right here we start off um, with the narrator recalling events, like basically setting it in the past, saying of how over time like this love between him and Annabelle Lee grew and grew. And even though after death, like right here in this specific part, for the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee by especially these two whole four lines. I feel like it just really emphasizes the theme here, that even though she's gone, even though she's dead, and even though he doesn't see her anymore, he still sees her everywhere. um so right here it says that um the moon and the stars always remember or remind him of Annabelle Lee. Um, Another thing I feel like is most effective is the universal character. So right here, obviously, the character is Annabelle Lee and how she was gone, how he remembers her, etc. But um, well, I feel like everyone has, I guess, their version of Annabelle Lee, even though maybe they don't have to be dead in necessarily, but it just gives this feeling of reminding someone of that special someone that they have. So I feel like uh, the focus on the theme, it's just even more impactful to the reader because it, in this case, even if the person is dead, especially, or has passed on, it gives the reader this like nostalgic feeling and this longing for that person because of the character of Annabelle Lee. Like everyone's gonna have, well, mostly everyone's gonna have someone that they automatically think of whenever reading this poem. Like somebody thinks of their own Annabelle Lee, and just the fact that it starts off with something so sweet and ends up something so sad is it becomes even more impactful to the reader. And that kind of goes into my next point, which is the shift um, from like I guess the shift of tone. And so it starts off with having the narrator talk about um, how many years ago like there was this girl like so beautiful named Annabelle Lee, and they just loved each other, and they just like the love between them was so great. And it was like at first you don't get the I guess the feeling, or you don't really get that this woman is dead. You just feel like he's just ranting about how much he loved her and how much their love has grown over time. But as you keep reading, especially here, where it says, "The wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee." Like that's where the shift, it turns more like um ominous. It turns more, it takes a darker turn. So here we have um towards the end, it just talks about um well, let me start. Whenever it starts off really nice and sweet with him recalling these events, then it turns really sad, speaking of her death and how she was killed. And then towards the end, even though it's still sad, it's more mournful. It's more like remembrance, more of a eulogy type of thing. Like he's just like, "Oh, I'm always gonna remember you. I'm always gonna have you in my heart. Like just because you're dead doesn't mean I don't love you." Or so I the fact that it goes through these shifts, it kind of brings the reader along into this emotional roller coaster, and it's just very effective because it's just it really tugs at the reader's heartstrings, which I feel like it's very great. I quickly summarized here why